Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, buenos dias, ni hao, buenos tardes, sister, akwabe, welcome in, what up though? Alright, how are you? This is Cafe Melange, week numero 5, session numero 2, and we're actually live streaming, ho ho! And this is my first occasion doing it. I used to do this stuff like a year or two ago, but this is the new setup, and I have yet to do a test run, so we'll just see how this goes. I'm also recording it just in case. So again, we're on a field trip, and uh, actually the live chat setup is comparatively easy compared to what it was before in terms of getting whatever is called software for doing this and the other streaming software and stuff like that. So this is simple. It's actually basically like what the Google Hangouts used to be. Rather than getting into all that, I'm going to share a topic for today. Now this one is a little bit racy, but relevant, and I share it particularly because the resonance, but also because it's a combo. It's a continuation of a combo that's begun in the vicinity of where I am at the moment. So a while ago, I have a conversation with some young brethren at a local university, and the, in that conversation, one of the brethren mentions a recent fair is the wrong word for it, but like an event. There was like tables and displays and stuff like that, and different things being advocated and topics of discussion. And amidst this, one of the tables, talks about sex on campus and sex being consensual, and then also having safe sex, utilizing protection. And so we start talking about what that is, what that's about, and so the conversation is actually interrupted. It was actually an ongoing conversation, and amidst that process, there was an interruption, and so I abstained from saying everything that I had to say in that convo. And so I say it here because it's been a while since we do that, and since I see the young brethren as I usually do previously. So I just share the convo again because it's relevant, particularly within our melange experience, and I can articulate it further on that. Also being mindful of time because I got the joint later on this afternoon as well. So obviously, consensual sex, of course, or sex being consensual, that's a no-brainer. Safe sex is an interesting consideration because sex is not dangerous when it's done right, and that's the important consideration. So first of all, when we talk about that, first these are like that's the whole notion about consensual and safe sex. It's a very low bar. It's a very low minimum or requirement when it comes to having sex, and it's like a woefully low bar. It's a woefully low threshold, and there's so many additional considerations for it to be increasingly healthy, and that's a consideration: healthy sex. So before we get into what that is, first we say about what not to do. So first of all, consensual. Of course, a man forces himself on a woman forces himself on a man. Wrong, and it's not just like a slap on the wrist wrong. It's like it's murderous, it's torturous, literally. It's as bad, if not worse, than murder and torture. Right? And so, don't do it. Date rape, this and the other, not. So, and that's a whole conversation about the conditions and the circumstances and how to avoid that and how to recognize it. And additionally, but ultimately, it's just like obviously no, and that's me being Captain Obvious on that. But it's appropriate to say that. and all the different scenarios of it being like of a man sneaking a woman into his place and taking advantage of her, utilizing drugs, alcohol, this, that, and the other, telling lies or whatever else, all wrong. So that's that. Now we get into the safe sex thing. Here's the thing about it. Again, sex is not dangerous. And if you're talking about having safe sex and using precautions accordingly, all of that, it's gutter sex. It's gutter sex, and that's the only reason why you would need safety, because it's gutter sex, because it's not being mindful, considerate, attentive, dutiful, committed to the other person, invested, and so when you do have that commitment, marriage, and you do have that understanding, that support, that mindfulness, that intentionality, then those are the conditions for healthy sex. Um, so that's my spiel on it. Again, if it's not committed, if it's not committal, if it's not in marriage, if the two people, the man and the woman, do not have a lifelong commitment to be with each other for life, it's gutter sex. It's gutter. It's garbage. It's pure self gratification, indulgence, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional. You can call it spiritual or otherwise. It's just using each other to please oneself. Plain and simple. I ain't being high and mighty about this, because I've been guilty of that myself in previous years, until I learn better, and see it for what it is. So if you're concerned about catching something or starting something and needing to take precautions for that, that tells you something right there. It's gutter. So, anyways, and that might seem like a rather socioeconomic, pejorative term, gutter. Um, we can have that conversation as well. You get the gist of what I'm saying. You can call it toxic if that makes you feel better. Um, so, anyways, gutter. So, healthy. Again, life committed. It's a matter of being supportive, being committed, being prepared, and bringing life into this universe. Um, being in relationship, and being in relationship with each other's relationships, being supported, uh, and sanctioned, meaning recognized and approved. The relationship between the man and the woman being approved by their respective relationship. That's family, that's community, elders, and additionally, um, sanctioning, approving, giving, giving acceptance and support for that union, and then the sex occurring in that context, in those conditions. That's healthy sex, because when we think about sex, when we recognize what sex is, um, it's a cipher. And I say this in other situations before, but sex is a cipher. It's like you're committed with each other one way or another, whether you recognize it or not, whether you see each other again in life, whether you even know each other's names or not, one way or another, you're committed. You're already connected. You're connected for life, and the well-beings are connected as well. That's for life. That's the power of sex. That's the nature of sex. Uh, Mentally connected, physically connected, spiritually connected, cosmically connected, emotionally connected, um, and even amidst all the drama and the hate and the ups and flows and everything else like that, it's still connected, particularly because of that. Um, so recognizing that before even entering into that, it's a matter of having an understanding with each other beforehand, so that afterwards things are copacetic optimally as much as possible. That's what healthy sex is. It's supportive, it's trusting, it's nurturing, um, and it's miraculous. So, because life emerges, a life is supported through that union, through the joining of flesh. So, that's a consideration about toxic sex and healthy sex. So what does this have to do with melange? Well, a lot, because first of all, we can consider how much melange brethren are exotified. Oh, he looks so fantastic. What are you? Oh, what's your mix? What's this and the other? And people perceiving uh, a melange brother, and particularly melange sisters, as objects of sexual gratification. Something different than the homogeneous or the homogeneity that one is accustomed to, that a man is typically a man is accustomed to. So um, all the methods, all the strategies of seduction, additionally, to take advantage of a woman, are applicable for melange brethren. So it's a matter of recognizing, first of all, what is healthy, um, and in recognizing what is healthy, being increasingly um, resilient against those strategies and against that undue influence, and saying, "Oh, wait, what you want me to do? Wait, what? What do you want to do that for?" All the steps that lead up to that, to the actual um, abrogation. So that's a significant consideration, because again, melange brethren are often perceived as by homogenous communities as extraneous, as um, preferable foreigners or preferable outsiders, um, and leveraged in this, that, and the other. Um, and so, again, against women, it's a matter of uh, using women for sexual objectification. Um, for men too, there is that tendency, but also um, there is other forms of um, leverage, undue influence, um, political, socio-economic oppression. So, and that has reverberations when it comes to uh, the marital relationship between a man and a woman, but also the general relationship. So, what else does it got to do with managing? There are a few other things. I didn't take notes, um, so I'll try to think what else I can share at the moment. Um, I'll share another thing when we talk about sex. Uh, what I've described uh, particularly pertains to, or significantly pertains to, interaction between direct physical interaction between a man and a woman. That's not the limit of it, though. It also exists in pornography and masturbation and additional experiences or acts of sexual uh, activity. Um, still that cipher effect. It may be somewhat muted. It's still there, though. And again, it's life, and it affects an individual emotionally, physically, spiritually, um, mentally, comprehensively. And so that's something to be mindful of as well. Uh, and to be mindful of the cause and effect, the harms that are caused in that behavior, all around for everybody involved, from the women being exploited, to the exploiters being exploited, towards the audience. Ha 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 ha. It just unconnected. It says your connection is unstable. Oh, did you not like what I just said? Now it's resuming. So to the audience, to the people, to the viewers, the voyeurs doing it. It's harm all around. It's unhealthy. It's toxic. So it's a matter of recognizing that and knowing what is healthy and progressing accordingly. I'm talking in circles a little bit at this moment. I'm rambling a little bit. I got about maybe like 5 minutes to share, so I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. There are a lot of things actually that build from this and why to explain the relevance, but it's difficult to sum it up in single minutes. So I'm trying to think of some other points. I'll share this other thing, melange. Um, Contemporarily, within the past couple of decades, as melange becomes increasingly a thing, and people identify this and communities organize around this, particularly in the West, particularly in here on Turtle Island, there is what I observe as a very proximate or very close linkage between the melange movement and advocacy and liberal politics, particularly LGBTQ and liberal sexual um, identity, and it being kind of categorized as kind of an individual right, and the whole melange experience being pigeonholed within some notion of individual liberty, just like having sex with who one wants to have sex with. It's very important to distinguish the two from each other. Very fundamentally different. And it's an example of the Eurocentric, xenophobic, patronizing, um, uh, oppressive tendencies of just labeling something as other in the category of other and then treating it just like anything else. And then giving preferable treatment to the other LGBTQ that is increasingly similar to what's perceived as the homogenous norm, Eurocentricity. And so an LGBTQ, a Eurocentric LGBTQ person is perceived as increasingly proximate to the Eurocentric homogeneity compared to a melange person, typically, and thus there's favoritism. Put them all in the same category, apply the same policies, the same rewards, the same initiatives and investments, predicated on the same thing, inclusivity. Oh, we like you, you can be part of us, as long as you do what we say. And then, but still providing favorable treatment and recognizing increased proximity with um, the phenotype that is increasingly similar to the Eurocentric norm. And it's not just limited to Eurocentricity. This can be applicable to other ethnicities as well. It's just very prominent within Western civilization, i.e., Eurocentric uh, society. So, right. And to be honest, in other societies, LGBTQ is very severely admonished and even violently admonished, and I don't advocate that either. But that's just one of the distinctions between as a civilizational context. So, anyways, that's the scenario these days, and that's why it's important to recognize what healthy sex is, what healthy sexual relationship is, particularly as melange people, so that we can be increasingly um, um, healthy, enduring, resilient amidst the influences, the selfish tendencies, the oppressive tendencies within the society around us. Um, so when we are increasingly attuned um, and disciplined within our sexual relationships, then we can better see what's healthy, and not just sexually, but comprehensively, economically, politically, socially, and additionally. And we are also on further substantial ground, formidable ground, ethical ground, to articulate the interests of melange, what's in our best interests for our families, for our children, for our youth, for those who are in need, and additionally. And so, when getting enveloped in the liberal and particularly the libertine trope, that provides a lot of discrediting amongst many communities, not just the Eurocentric mainstream, but also traditional communities additionally that just say, oh, they just want to party, they just want to have fun, and all the love and peace to Cyndi Lauper and additionally, but it gets marginalized and admonished as just the liberal frivolousness. And so it's important to recognize that and to stand in the long-term interests of our families, of our children, our youth, our women, our men, our elders, and additionally. So that's part of the consideration and the relevance of healthy sex. So, how you doing? All right. So that's part of it. Um, that's a lot of it. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm trying to think of anything else. Anything else? Anything else? That's a lot of topics at the moment. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Zaijan. Adios. Teacher. Who's something that else? Friend. I love and peace. All right. And then he was like, I was gonna maybe stop by and like half an hour or one. I also will say this. No.